last time. So by sorry? Oh, it's me. It's an echo. Right, okay. Sorry. By comparison, I've got quite a lightweight slot, which you might not guess from looking at me. But seeing as I'm coming at the end, as it were, it's probably best just to go with words and pictures. So I think there's kind of three opportunities really that come from GDPR stuff. I should say a little bit about what we do and why I think that. Iazo, my company, founded about 3 years ago. We're a bunch of database marketing stroke CRM experts working for clients like Argos, Virgin, New Look, John Lewis, some of the quite big retailers, TalkTalk. In fact, I had the job of trying to figure out how many customers they lost as a result of that data breach. And you're right, 50 million is not wrong. It's a disaster for them. And what was interesting as well from it was really that they lost a lot of older customers who had been with them for years and years and years and had really high lifetime value, weren't going to leave until they had a bit of coffee. So we work with Tom Charles and his company, Framework 8, Drip Tree. Tom can give us a wave. One of the things that we've been doing with Tom's company is building a tool to help people manage the GDPR compliance process. I'm not going to talk about that today, bizarrely. So when we look at the databases that we look after for our clients, one thing, we build single customer views, and then we have a really quite sophisticated data science capability that sits on top of that, and we do a lot of work trying to work out how they should make more money. What we can see for most mature businesses, and it's different in rapidly growing online businesses, but even then the proportion's surprising. In any given year, 80% of revenues come from existing customers. So all the work that goes on in acquisition and all the marketing spend is often aimed at people who aren't yet customers, when really it's the existing customers that are going to drive the money. And all customer communications, when you look at channels, whether it's email or it's direct mail or display and Facebook stuff you're doing to existing customers, when you look at all that stuff, it seems to drive incremental revenues of 25%. So to take a very risky view, a very pessimistic view, I think that the worst case is that we could be looking at a 20% drop in revenues post GDPR, and that's what we have to mitigate against. Now that's in the very bleakest case, where we're looking at, if you choose to capture, try and reposition your whole base and fail to do so and all the rest of it. And it looks like most companies are going to come out in a rational world where they're not going to do that, right? But we still need that permission, because people can opt out, and we've got to make it easier to opt out. And really that means that we've got to answer a more fundamental question. And I think we've seen some of the Ben's excellent suggestions around wording for direct mail and all that kind of thing. But I think this is really a CMO debate. And it's this question. Right? So how does marketing market marketing? Right? And how do we think that through, so that there are actually meaningful value propositions for people to do what we want to do, to build the trust? And I think that takes us to the central point, which is that we need our customers to do something for us. We've got to continue to have permission to capture this data, work out the things we work out, and then communicate to build relationships. And that means we need a proposition. And I think that starts from a perspective of knowing your audience. Now, what we've been doing recently with some of our clients is helping them through the process of trying to understand the different pockets of the base who are variously engaged in the communication channels we're using, right? Because we can see that a large proportion of the 20% open rate, for instance, that's driven by email campaigns, is actually driven by a small proportion of the base who consistently open the emails. Right? And really the challenge is, how do you get people to engage in the conversation who are ignoring everything you do? Right? And I think that comes down to principles and promises. And this is really about trying to work out what you're trying to do from a conversational perspective and what your brand stands for, and therefore what principles you need to run the marketing program by and what promises you can afford to make. So, for instance, if you were TalkTalk and you said to people, "Can we outbound telemarket you whenever we like?" How many of you would say yes to that? Good, that's a relief. And if we said to you, well, you know, every year we like to do a full review of your account and make sure that you're on exactly the right package and you're getting fair value from everything that we're using and you're paying the cheapest price possible. And the only way we found that works is by phone. So please can we phone you up once a year to have that conversation? It will take about 10 minutes. Is that okay? How many of you would say yes? Yeah, about half. And that's what we're finding, right? So we're working really hard on trying to understand what the programs are that need to run, how customers are engaging with those programs, and how that needs to change in the future, and what we need to say in order to maintain permission to do all this stuff. And really that means something quite beautiful. Isn't that nice? And it's all about moving from campaigns to conversations. Now, I've been in the database marketing industry since 1992, and I've always found this whole campaign thing really weird. I mean, how many of us actually want to be campaigned at? Do you know, when you buy a car from Toyota, they talk about conquest, right? You appear on a conquest report as if you've been conquered, right? You haven't bought a car, they've conquered you. And it's just really weird, right? Now, our view is that conversations are things that are continuous and helpful, made in full awareness of everything we know about you and on time, right? And they're very, very different things from the kind of trading campaigns and everything else that we get blasted every day through email channels that don't work that well anymore and all the rest of it. And this is a fundamental shift in the way that marketing thinks about itself. And I think it has to be led from the top, really. So that's the first opportunity, right? And where we see our clients making that shift, we see open rates up, we see that we fully understand the effect of direct mail on lifetime value, and I support everything that Ben said on that subject. We've been running some quite cute control tests for some of our customers, trying to work out what's the incremental value of a direct mail campaign versus the incremental value of spending money on Google. And the answer is quite surprising, and it's very different from what Google claim is, which is probably not what, no surprises there, I suppose. Now, the second opportunity is really about the permissions hub. I think Victoria touched on this earlier, where we're talking about the need to capture permission to do things and opt-outs and opt-ins, if that's what you're going to do, and think about them as events. And the truth is that it's got to run over many, many channels. But we think if we can get this design right, we're working with Habitat and Argos at the moment on the design of a solution here. If we can get this right, we'll be able to drive up both what we know about customers and how many people we've got permission to go through. And we'll also have a fully compliant solution. And finally, and I really have rattled through this in 6 minutes and 31 seconds, I think there's a huge opportunity in data portability. Now, I think it's coming last in the way that we're all thinking about it at the moment, because everybody's been worried about what's the process to become compliant, how many customers are going to have left to market to, and what systems do I need to build for that. But if you think about O2's opportunity from Victoria's EE customer account, and how fundamentally brilliant it will be to be able to just ship all of her call data and history back from one place to another, and what effect that's going to have on clients that aren't very good at managing customer relationships, I think there's a massive opportunity here. And that's all I have to say, really. So we've got very, very, very lightweight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay, I think now it would be good to have, if anyone's got any questions they'd like to ask, starting with Rowena.
So we recently at Move have put people on the ground in Australia, and I just wondered, obviously this is an EU, UK kind of legal rules, but have any of the kind of speakers got any guidance on, yes, we're holding the data in the UK, EU, but kind of the rules around different kind of areas of the world?
Not one for me.
We're doing direct mail, we're doing the same processes in the UK and EU as, Australia, but different rules and regulations for them.
Just ask the question again. At the beginning of it.
So, so we've recently at Move put people down on the ground in Australia as marketing companies. We're doing the same kind of activities like direct mailing, printing, all the same data and processes there in Australia as the UK. I just wondered if any
specifically for
Yeah,
Australia.
for Australia, and whether this GDPR still affects in the same way for like Australia.
But the Australian company won't be dealing in EU data.
Well, we hold the data in the UK.
Oh, okay, so it's way in storage.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's a good one to start with, something we don't know the answer to.
Because we've all got marketing managers
Yeah.
in each country, US, UK, Australia, things like that, how it all interlinks, and do we need to build these systems just us in the UK for you, or Australia as well?
Building for Australia as well.
Yeah.
That's absolutely. There are more questions to be asked and answered on that one, but yes, there's nothing wrong with what you are doing in terms of moving data in the EU or the UK, even though it's Australian people's data. But you will need to be mindful of the Australian laws rather than necessarily the EU laws.
Sorry, it's a bit long.
Sorry, I couldn't get the meaning of the question.
Two.
Okay.
Matt, you don't have to worry about the microphone.
I can hear you.
We've touched on consent, but one of the areas where I'm still quite unclear is how you deal with consent with your legacy data. So if you have a database of 60, 80, 100,000 people, and your process at the moment has been a combination of an already ticked box or an unticked box, how do you approach consent from today onwards, and particularly from May next year?
Alright. How are you currently capturing that legacy, or how is that legacy data being captured? Is it being captured through an opt-in or an opt-out mechanism?
A combination. That's why I say, particularly on the website.
So I think you need to look at the data that you've collected. You need to look at what the grounds for processing were at the time you collected it. So if you got some form of consent, and it was an opt-in consent, and it kind of met the requirements of GDPR, you're kind of stuck with consent, because moving somebody from consent to legitimate interest is essentially taking away their rights, because they've consented and now saying, actually, your consent's invalid, I'm going to go down legitimate interest, I don't need your consent anymore. If you have gone in on an opt-out basis, and you consider that under GDPR you can continue to use legitimate interest as grounds for processing, then you're fine. You just need to make sure that the legitimate interest is specified on your privacy notice, and that everybody understands that that's the basis on which you're processing their data. If you have data that is technically should be consent, and you haven't done it properly, that's where you've got a problem. And
That's why I'm asking the
yeah,
question.
and the problem that you've got there is you've got a whole load of data where they think they've consented, but they actually haven't, and you haven't done it right. And it was never consent anyway, even under the DPA, it's certainly not consent under GDPR. That's when you need to start thinking about your recommissioning exercises. That's when you need to start thinking about whether actually it was always legitimate interest, even though you thought it might be consent. That's fine. Whether you need to ditch that data completely because you simply can't use it, or whether you need to run some kind of exercise to get proper permissions in place that will be valid under GDPR. And the difficulties there are more about the electronic communication methods, because they fall under PECA, and PECA was designed, the current PECA regulation, which is Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulation, was designed to sit under the Data Protection Act. So it works beautifully with the Data Protection Act, but actually it doesn't work beautifully under GDPR, because all the consent guidelines are a bit different and a bit more stringent. And PECA is currently going through Europe as we speak, it was intended that the new PECA regulation would be running from May the 25th, completely concurrently with GDPR. I think that's extremely unlikely. When it went through Parliament about a month ago, there were about 100 revisions to the original guidelines that were put in place. And the problem with PECA at the moment is nobody knows whether business to business is going to be considered legitimate interest or not. That's a big debate that's still going on. And everybody knows that consent is going to be really difficult under PECA. What you can't do is email people for whom you don't have consent and try and get consent from them. Everybody who's tried so far has been mutilated by the ICO. But you can contact them in other ways and try and get consent from them. And it may just be that in some instances you just have to write that data off.
So looking at on the ground, I think we see that half of our clients are going through a full repositioning exercise for all the reasons that you described. In terms of they've got lots of kind of different types of data with different levels of consent and all the rest of it. And the other half have figured out everything's okay and they can just carry on. And those are the clients that are thinking about building the permissions type approach to stay in the clear, either here and easy and central to all the other things.
And also clients who are saying, to me, my whole business runs on emails. I have hundreds of thousands of people whom I email and they respond. And I know I don't have the right consent, and I know if I try and repermission them, I'm going to lose 80% of them. And so I'm not prepared to take the risk. So there is a risk assessment piece to this where the company just goes, I'm going to accept that risk. And that's for every individual. I mean, my job basically is to tell them how it works, and their job is to decide what they want to do about it. But there are organisations that are saying, I'm not going to do this.
Thank you.
Probably one for you again. I'm actually asking a question from a publishing perspective. So, and I think I'm interested in legitimate interest, finding out a little bit more about that from a publishing perspective. And the specific context is, so if we're publishing lists of individuals' names, so CEO of an organisation, okay, and the CEO of that organisation, of course, has got his or her name on his or her own website. Is that implied consent or legitimate interest that we would then be able to take that name and publish it?
It's a difficult one because the Information Commissioner, if I put my name on my website and my contact details, I'm doing it to get business for me. I am not doing it to be marketed to by other organisations. And the Information Commissioner makes it very clear that that is their view. That name is up there for that person to get business for its organisation, and it is not there for other organisations to market to. And they have come down in favour of the individual in that instance in a couple of examples. So, not straightforward, but yeah.
Balance of risk.
Yeah, balance of risk.
You touched upon earlier about sales versus marketing. Often there's quite blurred lines between that. I work in a business where the culture is very much still exchanging business cards to close a deal. Obviously then our sales team then blasts them with emails and telephone conversations, etc. If they're then put into our database, are we, because they've engaged in two-way conversation, does that give us permission to market to them as long as we've got an opt-out statement somewhere? Or from a marketing team perspective?
From a B2B marketing perspective like that, I would certainly not.
It's not B2B, it's B2C. So I work in private aviation, so our sales team will engage with individuals on a kind of face-to-face point of view and switch business cards. To that point they then get put into our database. Does that then give the
But
marketing
it's a business card, it's not a business.
No, it's for the individual, so
So it's a consumer show, basically. Is that where your sales team are meeting?
no, so this is just
I think the point is, if I'm right, you go out and you meet a client who's going to charter a private jet, and they say, here's my details, I want to get in touch with you. You as the salesperson gives them their card, you go back, you put their details in, and then the follow-up then happens in the office.
So I would
It's the same
consider
as
that to
for-
be a legitimate interest in people who are locked out. They've given you a card, they've said, contact me, that's fine.
Then
They've
no
given
point.
you all the details.
So then, your security method on that is that you then store and retain all those business cards if someone comes in. So how do you get that data? Well, here's the handover of the cards.
You have to document the fact that this was a card that was handed over on the date. You have to keep a card, just a reference to this is the data from the card, which I collected on the following date. And if you want to sort of say the context of the conversation, I mean, if you're putting it in a CRM system like Salesforce, you've got a lot of opportunity to put information in there that
Exactly.
will provide the evidence you need that says I'm perfectly entitled to contact this person.
Great. So the sales team don't then need to have a conversation with them to say you will get marketing emails, etc.
No, just put the
Kind of
opt-outs,
take
make
the
sure that
sales
the
pitch.
opt-outs are in there and make sure that you have a notice somewhere that says this is what we're going to do with data that is provided to us under legitimate interest.
Can I ask about prospective customers?
Yeah, please do.
So I work in a similar sort of part of the market, and we have sales teams who are identifying clients who don't even know the company. So presumably, under the new rules, we can't put those details onto a prospecting system.
So your sales team is identifying clients,
Yeah,
That-
clients.
potential clients, that you then want to continue to market to.
Correct.
So, again, I would suggest it's probably not too dissimilar to the example we've just discussed.
How are they collecting the leads?
Well, they're not. This is prospective leads, so they will go
So how are
through
they
the.
collecting the
Okay, so go
prospects?
through the financial news, look at the M&A activity, and find out who's behind that, and then if they've benefited from making a lot of money, they'll then try and contact.
It's sort of
Yeah, it's the same for us. We do a vast majority of our stuff is research leads, so looking at Forbes rich lists, that kind of thing. It's not people who come to us, we go to them.
I mean, so if, for example, you're doing telemarketing, that's all perfectly legitimate and you can do that, but just make sure they're not on TPS or CTPS. And bear in mind that if you're talking to small organisations like small partnerships or sole traders, they are considered consumers. As far as emailing them is concerned, that's slightly more.
And I suppose I can hesitate my answer or lack of an answer, Dom, by virtue of the fact that from an abacus perspective, it's basically from when you're targeting prospects in the mail, the marketing preference for those individuals has been captured already. So you've, by virtue of them having bought from an alliance member, you have a customer that has said, yes, I'm happy for my details to be made available to third parties. So in that scenario, then obviously you've got data that is already appropriately captured and appropriately permissioned. When it comes to your scenario, that's where it's a grey area for me in terms of from an abacus perspective.
And in the sense of business to business, it is easier certainly at the moment because you can use legitimate interests as the grounds for sending an email because it is business communication to a business organisation and that's all absolutely fine. But if it's a consumer, that is not.
I've got two questions. If creating a startup and you have a lot of contacts from previous businesses, you obviously want to tell those new contacts about this new venture. Now the migration of that data, how would you go about that legally?
That's where all my contacts are.
Yeah, that's what I do.
For our business, we have to profile incredibly details down to food preferences and entirely family, with that. How do we need to protect against that? We will know absolutely everything about our clients, so we're taking them away rather than need to have all of that in place.
This is information you're capturing, not working out.
Capture.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that organisationally only appropriate people can access relevant info. So only the right people can access data, can change that data. It's about making sure everybody in the organisation understands what the risks are, is trained to recognise phishing attacks and things like that. It's about making sure you've got the right technical security.
I have a question with regards to data breaches. So, does the GDPR cover that? Does it police the data breach? Because with the best will in the world, you can follow, you can be compliant in all of these various different areas. But if you have a data breach, then surely it will utterly pointless and is worse than if you hadn't. So, would the company be liable for prosecution on that basis?
I think it depends on why there is a data breach. So if you take TalkTalk, the classic case, they didn't bother to do proper security, and they did it once. So 400 grand, I think they got away with it, really. And under GDPR, I think they'll be fine a lot more.
We've been working on the basis that you have to practice data breaches, or you have to practice being breached, and you have to record the fact that you practiced it. And so it's about having a fire drill, and it's a data breach, and you have to do it every Thursday. But we're working on twice a year.
If you can demonstrate that you took steps not to be breached, and if you have a process in place, which you're talking about, whereby in the event of a data breach we have to notify if there's material risk of damage to the individual. So you've got your templates, you've only got 72 hours to do it. In those 72 hours, you have to tell the Information Commissioner, and if there is a material breach that will impact the individual as well, within 72 hours, that has been breached, what the breach is, what the impact is on the individual, and what you're going to do about it. Now, trying to do that in 72 hours is very difficult. So you need to have a process, you need to have the templates, you need to have a PR response process in place, because you are going to be on breakfast servers, and you better do a good job. And you, as you say, practice it, make sure it works.
So you can't, the process can't be, let's have a meeting that's entitled, oh my God, what are we going to do? You've got to have it all worked out, what detailed things go to respond in 72 hours.
Are there different levels and standards of expectation depending on the data that you are holding on individually?
Yeah, so sensitive personal data, confidential data about people's bank accounts and their credit cards and their salaries and those kinds of bits of data that would actually do quite significant damage if used. But frankly, even losing an email address, it can be catastrophic, because you get a phishing email from somebody who's socially engineered it against something that they know about you because of breach, and you believe it because it's credible, because they know more about you than they really should. It all needs to be protected. And yes, you will be prosecuted by the Information Commissioner, and that's why I keep talking about evidence. Evidence is if you have documented that you've taken appropriate steps, and you're a long way down the journey to being fully compliant, and there will always be breaches. You really, every ship leaks, they don't all sink. But it is all about demonstrating that you've taken it seriously and taken the right steps.
So all of our data is actually stored in the US, is stored and managed for all of our communications go out to our UK market. How would we go about messaging this and keeping within GDPR, although it's them that kind of holds and manages?
So are you working with somebody who's kind of in Privacy Shield, or do you have...
No, so we're actually a fashion brand, but managed from the US, we're just very small in the UK. Would we still have to comply with GDPR?
If you're dealing with UK citizens or EU citizens, yes, you would.
Yeah.
You'll have to decide who is.
I don't know what law means when it comes to data protection.
Really?
Obviously, that's a very crass response. It is a different landscape. By virtue of Abacus being 25 years old in the States and 19 years old over here, it is a business of significant size over there, and the requirements on retailers do not, as I understand it, and I confess I've not looked at what little data protection law there is in the US when it comes to retail, the requirements are significantly less, as I understand it, to what they are here.
Okay.
It's also different state by state, so it's complicated. There's no overarching regulations. Every state's different. Georgia has very, very stringent rules. California also, and some of the others are really just
Okay. Marvellous.
they are actually starting to sit up and take notice now.
I have one last question. If you're an organisation who is handling data, so for example, as we would, in the process of personalising catalogue, mail outs, all the rest of it, what are the rules we need to obey there?
As a data processor.
Yeah.
So you and your data controller client need to have a contract in place that specifies what data you're going to be given, how you're going to be given it, what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
How you do it is up to you, but the what you're going to do and the why is defined by the data controller. How long you can keep it, what records of destruction that they want, what evidence they want of destruction. That there is a mandated clause which allows the client to audit your security and to make sure that you have the right security. You as a processor are answerable now not only to your client, which is how it was in the DPA, but also to the Information Commissioner. So you can be fined by the Information Commissioner and sued by your client for breach of contract if you completely mucked up.
Sure. Okay. But we don't technically touch the data.
No,
Yeah. Or look at it. We so we don't really process it in any way. We're just passing it on from the data controller to, for example, a mailing house.
Okay, so it's what you're just a conduit.
Yes, absolutely. So
Okay, so
our thinking on this is that we need a secure server that
Yeah.
we can hold this, that one can put it in.
you need a secure transfer mechanism as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whether that's portal or SFTP or something like that.
For the purpose of first-party marketing, would I need to collect explicit consent via an opt-in, or would I be able to assume that an opt-out is sufficient?
What are you talking about in terms of...
So in terms of if someone subscribes to my website, I want to sell them something based on their prior purchase, or just introduce them to new products that we offer.
And they've bought from you? Because if
They
bought,
could either have bought or have signed up because they're interested in creating a profile on the website.
Okay, what sort of service are you offering?
So we sell art direct to consumers from the artist.
Okay. Again, it depends on the communication channels. So direct mail, absolutely no issue. It's legitimate interest. So same with telephone, as long as I say, you always have to run them against any opt-out lists that the amount of signed up to. For email, you want to make sure that when you collect their email address, they know that you will use it and sign up to that. In a perfect world, you would get them to tick a box that says, yes, I can communicate.
Thank you.
Any more? No, I think that's about it. That's pretty much perfectly timed actually for lunch. Pleased to say. Could I just say thank you to Victoria, to Ben, and to John for their time and efforts in putting this together. Thank you.